On a grey Saturday in September, the streets of central London were flooded. But this was not a climate protest or a victory parade. It was a sea of flags, crosses, and angry faces. The Metropolitan Police Service estimated the crowd to be somewhere between 110,000 and 150,000 people. And while you might have seen wild claims of 3 million attendees flying around on social media, those numbers were quickly debunked. Still, by any official measure, it was one of the largest right-wing gatherings in modern British history. It was called Unite the Kingdom, and at its very center stood one man, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, better known as Tommy Robinson. This was not just another protest. For the people who were there, it was the start of something much bigger, what Robinson himself called the beginning of a counter-revolution. So, how did we get here? How did a figure so divisive, a man with a string of criminal convictions for everything from assault to fraud, manage to pull together such a massive and varied coalition? To figure that out, you have to look past the man on the stage and analyze the playbook. This is the story of how a potent mix of grievance, religion and national identity was weaponized to unite an army of the discontented. This is how Tommy Robinson united 150,000 angry Brits. Part 1. The Architect. To get what is happening, you have to get the guy at the center of it all. Stephen Yaxley. Lennon's public life did not start in political commentary. It started back in 2009 on the football terraces of Luton, where he co-founded the English Defence League, or EDL. The EDL quickly got a reputation for its aggressive street protests and openly anti-Islam stance. Those demonstrations often spiraled into violence, but they put Robinson right at the heart of a growing, fractured nationalist scene. He left the EDL in 2013, but he did not go away. He rebranded. Reinventing himself as a journalist and a free speech activist, he started building a whole new persona. This was not just a career change, it was a strategic shift. He was not just a street protester anymore. In his new story, he was a truth teller being silenced by a corrupt establishment. Every arrest, every court case just became more proof for his supporters that he was a victim of state persecution. His legal troubles are absolutely central to this image. Take October 2025. He faced court under the Terrorism Act for refusing to give police his phone's PIN code after being stopped in a Bentley with over £13,000 in cash. He claimed he was protecting journalistic sources. The state said he was blocking a counter-terrorism investigation. For his followers, the details do not really matter. The headline is simple. Tommy Robinson, the man telling truths they do not want you to hear, is being targeted by the system again. He even announced that Elon Musk was paying his legal fees for the case, calling it absolute state persecution. It is a powerful narrative that turns a long criminal record from a liability into an asset, a badge of honor in his war against the mainstream. Part 2. The grievances. But a leader, no matter how charismatic, needs something to rally people around. And Robinson's movement is built on a bedrock of deeply felt grievances. The Unite the Kingdom rally was not just one thing. For many it was a broad church of discontent. The slogan itself was vague enough for people to project their own frustrations onto it. But underneath it all, 3 core issues stand out. First, and most obviously, there's the powerful fuel of anti-immigration rhetoric. The rally was seething with anger over small boat crossings and what people there see as a total loss of control over Britain's borders. Speeches and video clips shown at the event mocked migrants, painting the issue as an existential threat to the nation. This taps into a very real and growing anxiety, a feeling that a huge chunk of the population is being ignored by a political class in London that is completely out of touch with their lives. Robinson does not just talk about numbers. He talks about an invasion, a flooding of the country, deliberately engineered by globalist elites. The second driver is newer, and maybe even more important, Christian nationalism. This rally was different. It was not just a nationalist protest. For many, it felt like a religious crusade. People marched holding giant wooden crosses, some with the word Christ carved into them. They sang Christian hymns and chanted Christ is King before reciting the Lord's Prayer all together. This is a deliberate, powerful fusion of religious and national identity. It tries to define Britishness not just as a nationality, but as a Christian birthright that is under attack from secularism and, specifically from Islam. This reframes a political fight as a spiritual one, a holy war for the very soul of the nation. It is a vision that stands in direct opposition to the liberal, secular values that have shaped modern Britain. And the third pillar is the idea of the forgotten people. Over and over, marchers told journalists they felt unheard, dismissed, and shut out by the political system. They talked about a two-tier policing system and a corrupt establishment that looks after minorities while punishing the native population. This victim narrative is crucial. It lets a crowd of over 100,000 people see themselves not as a powerful mob, but as an oppressed minority that is finally taking a stand. Robinson told the crowd, "There has been a globalist revolution. They have attacked the family. They have attacked Christianity. They have opened the borders. We are the start of a counter-revolution." That language turns economic anxiety and cultural fears into a deliberate plot, giving people a clear enemy to fight. Part 3. The Coalition. So, how did all these threats, anger about immigration, Christian fervor, and a deep sense of betrayal get woven together to create such a massive crowd? The genius of the Unite the Kingdom rally, if you want to call it that, was its ability to build a surprisingly broad coalition. It is easy to just write off everyone there as far-right thugs, but that is a simplification that misses what was really going on. The crowd was a real mix. Of course, the hardcore far-right activists were there, but so were people from every corner of the UK, from Yorkshire to the Isle of Wight, many of whom had never been to a protest in their lives. You had football lads, church groups, and families. The flags told the story. The Union Jack flew next to the St. George's Cross, the Scottish Saltire, and the Welsh Dragon. Interestingly, Israeli flags were also easy to spot, a nod to Robinson's staunch pro-Israel and Zionist stance, which he presents as part of a united front against radical Islam. This has even led to him being a guest of the Israeli government, which only helps legitimize his cause in the eyes of his supporters. What holds this coalition together is a shared enemy and a whole lot of ambiguity. The enemy is the globalist elite, a shadowy force that gets blamed for everything, from mass immigration to the breakdown of traditional values. The ambiguity is in the solutions. The rally's theme song was "Come One, Come All," but the message from the stage was often about exclusion. Speakers like Francis Eric Zemmour pushed great replacement-style narratives, while another speaker called to ban mosques. This creates a movement where a person worried about local crime can stand shoulder to shoulder with an ideologue who wants to deport millions. A person holding a cross as a symbol of peace can stand next to someone dressed like a crusader, ready for a holy war. That shared sense of crisis, expertly stoked by Robinson and others, just papers over all the cracks. In their own minds, they are all just standing up for a Britain that is slipping through their fingers. Conclusion. So, what should we make of all this? The Unite the Kingdom rally was more than just a one-off event. It was a powerful demonstration of a new kind of hybrid nationalism taking root in Britain. It showed how one person, by mastering a story of victimhood and persecution, can unite a huge and diverse coalition of the angry, the anxious, and the alienated. The playbook is pretty clear. First, you identify real grievances, whether they are about money, culture, or society. Then, you frame those problems not as complex policy failures, but as a direct attack by a corrupt elite. You fuse that political anger with a powerful, emotional identity, in this case, an aggressive brand of Christian nationalism. And finally, you offer a simple, powerful vision of a counter-revolution that promises to bring back a lost, imaginary past. Senior church leaders, including a former Archbishop of Canterbury, issued a joint statement saying, "The cross is the ultimate sign of sacrifice for the other. Any co-opting or corrupting of the Christian faith to exclude others is unacceptable." But for the tens of thousands who gathered in London, that fusion of faith and flag was the very thing that gave the movement its power. They believe they are in a fight for the future of their country, and in Tommy Robinson, they have found their champion. This was not the end of something, it was the beginning. The real question is not how it happened, but what happens next. If you found this breakdown interesting, Please consider subscribing for more deep dives into British politics. And let me know what you think in the comments. What do you believe is driving this movement? It is a complicated issue, and it is one we need to talk about openly. Thanks for watching.